I wonder what they have anything to do with it. I didn't do it. Are you ready? Talk to Dan.
We'd like to call the September County Legislature meeting to order. Roll call, Madam Clerk. For the second privilege of the floor.
I have a brief letter here to read regarding some concerns about the Arkwright Summit Wind Project. I provided copies of the letter to the members of the legislature along with information on the harmful effects of ambient electromagnetic fields. This was a beautiful place to live. This was a healthy place to live. This was a peaceful place to live. This was a safe place to live. The essence of our Arkwright home has been destroyed, and there's no end in sight for the continuation of this destruction in Chautauqua County, Western New York, and New York State. Arkwright residents are being sickened. Arkwright residents, entire families, are being driven from their homes. The very people who have taken an oath to protect the health, welfare, and well-being of the residents of Arkwright, the town supervisor and the town board, have sold us out to big wind. They are not windmills. It's not a wind farm. It's not a wind park. They are 500-foot industrial wind turbine towers, inappropriately and illegally sited in an AR1 agricultural residential district. The only wind farm is the space between someone's ears that believes these monstrosities are beautiful. The term wind park was created by the turbine developer. There are 9 500-foot industrial wind turbines visible from our kitchen window. What we haven't seen are any eagles landing on our property since February 2017, when clear cutting for the Arkwright Summit project began. We have not seen any eagles land on the Brainerd Miller Skinner Road block since 100-foot transmission line towers strung with 5 cables were erected last year. This was the first summer in 28 years that there were no bats flying in our yard. When the turbines were activated in recent weeks, we noticed unusual sounds inside our home. On one occasion, there was a sound like a jet engine nearby. At another time, there was a strong vibration, humming sound permeating the entire house. The onset of headaches coincided with these incidents. Our beautiful, healthy, peaceful, safe place to live has been sold for the promise of a few dollars, our own taxpayer dollars no less. You must stop the industrialization and destruction of Charlotte, Cherry Creek, Cassadaga, Hanover, and Villanova by Cassadaga Wind LLC and Ball Hill Wind LLC. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak to the second privilege of the floor?
My name is Carrie Babcock, and I am a resident of the town of Arkwright. I have a letter that I've written. I was raised in Forestville and chose to make my home there as an adult due to the peace and tranquility of the countryside. My husband and I are both outdoor enthusiasts and have worked our whole adult lives to purchase our small little piece of heaven in Arkwright. We live in a double-wide manufactured home. It's not the Taj Mahal, but our decision to purchase our specific property was not based on the home itself, but rather the outdoor setting. I will never forget the evening that we were both outside and heard the windmills for the first time. There was a loud, droning thrum in the distance. We both immediately developed a headache. I kept repeating to my husband, "That can't be the windmills, they're so loud." They told us they weren't going to make any noise. And yes, it does sound like a jetliner, except it is not a jetliner that ever lands, but one that circles our home endlessly. On any windy day, and especially when the wind is out of the south-southeast, my life is typified by headaches and nausea, and I currently average about 6 hours of restless sleep a night. The thought of being sleep deprived for the next 25 years is daunting. I want to move, but with the current amount due on our mortgage and what I suspect will be a greatly reduced property value, I think that will be impossible. Not to mention that it would be a ruse to bring a family to our house. on a non-windy day in order to make the sale. I feel that it would be morally unconscionable to subject another human being, especially a child, to headaches and sleep deprivation. My husband and I are both environmentalists. We have devoted our careers as well as our private lives to environmental pursuits. We run our home on solar power and locally sourced firewood. Without proper sleep, we cannot function 100% at our jobs, and we spend less time outdoors engaging in our hobbies. There are people online that do not live in proximity to the windmills who are currently admonishing the citizens of Arkwright for their complaints. The common phrase is, well, then what are we going to do to address climate change? My answer is to put these things on vast expanses of ag land, not inhabited by people. Put them in old, unoccupied industrial zones, such as they did on the Lake Erie shoreline in Lackawanna. This technology should not and does not need to be placed within an unsafe distance of a residence. We were told that we would save money on our taxes while doing something good for the planet in exchange for a small whoosh in the background. None of these things are true. Our home is forever changed. Please don't let them do this to your town. Thank you for your time.
Conway, and I'm reading this for a friend of mine that was named Bill Bacon here tonight, and he lives in Arkwright. Infrasound is a real thing. My family is affected by it. If you watch your loved one rolling around on the floor, grasping their head, begging it to stop, and the only thing you know how to do is get her in the car and take her 2 miles down the road, and it's like her ears pop and it goes away. You may think, no way that this happens. It happened to me 12 times in the last 2 weeks. 12 times in the last 2 weeks to my wife, who is probably one of the toughest people I know. Now, if any man in this room can look at their wife or their son or daughter and see this, it's affecting little kids in Arkwright, 4 and 5-year-old. Would anyone here be able to look at the loved one, watch them go through that? If I hadn't known, I would have thought my wife was having an aneurysm and that she was going to pass before me. It's against the law to assault people. It's against the law to assault animals. It's against the law to abuse children. RES, EDPR, and White LLC are doing that day in and day out in Arkwright. They knew it. Res was quoted at a turbine project in Indiana saying, "We have what it takes to take what you have." Everything you have ever worked for in your entire life means absolutely nothing to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak to the second privilege of the floor?
Hi, it's Joni Riddle. Cassadaga Wind LLC asked to waive the public hearing and requested an expedited certificate of public convenience and necessity. We have asked for an evidentiary hearing to properly investigate the financial status of Cassadaga Wind before any tree clearing or issuance of a CPCN under PSL Section 68. It is only prudent. PSL Section 68 has a narrow focus, primarily centered on the financial feasibility and resources of the project developer. Since this important aspect is not vetted under the purview of Article 10, it should not have an expedited review under PSL 68, but a thorough review. Everpower Cassadaga Wind was recently sold to Energy. Energy's parent company, financially troubled RWE, is engaged in an unprecedented restructuring and asset swap with E.ON. These energy giants are Germany's equivalent to Enron. Of concern, RWE has been teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. Energy is entangled dead center in this transition, which is not to be finalized until the end of 2019. Energy is also expected to dissolve within a year or two. Who knows the outcome? This huge and risky transfer was not even mentioned by Cassadaga Wind when they petitioned for an expedited CPCN, a gross omission, we think, conveniently swept under the rug. You can read the petitions on the case record, which detail the financial issues at stake. I have emailed all legislators on how and where to post comments, and thank you. If you have time to look at that, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak to the second privilege of the floor?
My name is Marshall Greenstein from Casadega, town of Charlotte. I was asked by Angela Bittinger, who was lives on Center Road in Arkwright, to read something that she had presented to some of the town boards. She's working tonight, so she's unable to be here. She says, quote, "My home is a postcard for what not to do. The wind turbines are horribly loud. It depends on the day. Sometimes they are loud, sometimes not. I feel ashamed to say that I was convinced several years ago as a college student that wind turbines are green energy and we should support these. I did not know how big they were going to be, and I certainly did not know how close. If you live through the construction phase, as I did last year with my children, you will realize there is nothing green about these things. Unfortunately, we've been duped. The children have been impacted. I was offered $45,000 for my house by an Arkwright town board member when he knew I paid $90,000 for it. What does that tell you about property values? I can walk away from this house, and I am considering it. So I can hurt my credit, others can do that. Young families are going to desert these towns. I was told by a town official that I had to hush up and play nice because the owner before me signed that agreement. Well, they can cancel my agreement. I would gladly give up the money. The agreement gives me, if I could get my peace and quiet back. And she asked that to go to the Public Service Commission website and submit a statement on behalf of opposing the permit for Casadega LLC, Wind LLC. On a personal note, it's very difficult for me to be here. I know I'm time limited, but right now my wife and I, maybe you've met her, Patty Greenstein, pretty vocal about this. We're in the throes of this prospective event because we live on Hall Road and Casadega Road in Casadega, and if anybody knows where that is, already engineers are there setting it up for the turbines and all of the construction to be right down our throats. Our little farm, our 5-acre farm that we work hard for, that we believe we really are as green as we could be with room to grow. We grow our own vegetables, we have chickens, we take care of our property, we take care of our land, and we have that for sale. After 31 years, if you can appreciate the sentiments beyond the business aspect of all of this, people are losing out. You're going to lose people. You're going to lose people who will be here, but in spirit, they'll look at this county and say, they don't care about us. And when we talk about green, one thing, the last thought I have that I don't know if it's ever been brought to anybody's attention, but with the turbine companies coming in, identifying people and places where they can have money so they can put the turbines on their road, on the road, on their property and such. What about being human? What about humanity? If we want to be green, then money shouldn't be a problem. We should just say, you know what, folks, for the good of green energy, for the whole country, for the whole world, why don't we just have us, the corporations for wind companies, turbine companies, just use your property at our will, put our turbines there. You don't need any money, but this is about money. And this is about a few people who are now like partisan politics. There are a few people who are getting monies, maybe not getting wealthy, but getting monies and being pitted against their neighbors in small rural town America. I don't know how many of you people legislators live in rural areas, even see where we live. I remember when the pilot program first came up and I went to my first meeting and I invited them to come to see where it was going to go. I knew they weren't going to come. So what we always wonder from a human standpoint, humanity's standpoint, is do people really care that there are folks out there whose homes are being and property is being devalued and decimated? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak to the second privilege of the floor?
My name is Margaret Briegel. I live at 883 Hurlburt Road in Forestville. I am the owner of a small certified organic farm that is about to be in the middle of a large wind project. I have 5 turbines going in across the road from me, 3 turbines going in back of my pastures, transmission lines going in the field next to my pastures, a substation going in right across the road, and 2 construction access roads on either side of my house within a quarter mile. This project will devastate my farm. Thousands of pounds of herbicides applied to the land will render my water untestable. I will lose my certified organic status, and I will be out of business. But I'm not here for myself. I'm here to speak on behalf of the Amish community in Chautauqua County. They represent a significant contribution to the culture and economy in this area. Their input and concerns have been largely ignored by the large corporate interests wanting to develop giant wind farms in our community. Yet their interests are no less important than any others expressed previously or here. Following are some concerns expressed by the Amish families in our area regarding this project. First, they're concerned about the health of their families, their animals, and the life of their soils. They cannot grow healthy crops without a living soil. Safety is a major concern, as heavy construction traffic will create hardship and hazards for horses and buggies trying to navigate roads clogged with large equipment. Additionally, some have expressed concern about safety of ice being thrown from turbine blades long distances in the wintertime. They are concerned about loss of property values and land destruction if turbines are built close by to them. The Amish are religiously opposed to large-scale wind turbines, so constructing them on properties that they may wish to purchase in the future limits their ability to grow their communities. Finally, if the presence of large wind turbines causes fewer tourists to come into the area, negative economic impacts will affect their ability to conduct business. These are just a few of the concerns expressed amongst members of the Amish community. We ask that you take these concerns into consideration and request the New York State Public Service Commission to deny the request for an expedited certificate of public convenience and necessity for the Cassadaga Wind Project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone to speak to the second privilege of the floor?
Jarrid Engstrom, Mayville, New York. We are here to tell you and to ask you to listen, to tell you about what the people in Arkwright are experiencing and to listen to them. Many of them couldn't come tonight, they're young families. One has a boy who has his first football game tonight and others are working. The operation of these turbines in Arkwright began 3 weeks ago. The Arkwright experience is real time. It is live. It does not involve faraway studies or projections or models. The turbines in operation in Arkwright provide an absolute reality of noise, of infrasound, of bat and bird mortality. The health impacts of operating turbines in this area are a reality, not a projection. The studies that have been done were based on projections and long-term studies far away. They were not based on real conditions in our area. If the Public Service Commission approves the Cassadaga Wind LLC petition, tree clearing will begin November 1st. in the towns of Charlotte and Cherry Creek, which includes Sinclairville, Stockton, and Arkwright. Our deadline in asking you to comment is October 8th. And those comments can come as citizens just like us, or as our representatives who we trust to please express an opinion that is much more knowing of the situation than some of the other people and will have more impact. We had a hearing not so long ago that the Public Service Commission held, case 18E0399. You have the details on your desk and in your email. And at that hearing, a person by the name of Lois Jackson, who couldn't be here tonight, spoke. She lives on Center Road in Arkwright, and she asked me to read this for her tonight. She said, quote, "Before the turbines were started, I was not concerned about the noise, but that has all changed now. The noise changes. When it is bad, it is really bad. Now we have difficulty sleeping, and we have ringing in our ears. But you know what? That is not the worst part. The worst part is that my 4-year-old is really having a tough time with it. She is active, she is coordinated, she rides a pony, she is active in her tap dancing and ballet. The first time the turbines were loud, she said, 'My head hurts really badly,' and she threw up. She had no fever. There was nothing wrong with her, as far as I could tell. The second time, she fell when she was getting out of bed in the morning. She said, 'I'm dizzy, Mommy.' I gave her some juice and we sat on the couch, and she got up to go to the bathroom. She fell on the floor. I asked her again, 'What's wrong?' And with tears streaming down her face, she said, 'Mommy, those things just keep picking me up and throwing me around and around, and I can't move right. I'm dizzy and my head hurts.' She has no temperature, no sore throat, no ear infections. She is fine when we take her away, when she goes to school. But when we drive back home and we get near Center Road, she'll say, 'Mommy, I'm dizzy. I've got to get home fast. I'm going to throw up.' And she does. Many of my neighbors' children are experiencing similar things here. Perhaps this will help others who, like me, did not realize this. This is not made up. It is real. It is a living nightmare. Please don't hurt our children like this." End quote. We ask you to please look at the material we've sent and make a comment as an individual with a decency in mind that we expect from people who understand that this is not in our best interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone to speak to the second privilege of the floor? Anyone to speak to the second privilege of the floor? Seeing none, we will close the second privilege of the floor. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Bankowski. All those in favor? Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
This was a beautiful place to live. This was a healthy place to live. This was a peaceful place to live. This was a safe place to live. The essence of our Arkwright home has been destroyed, and there's no end in sight to the continuation of this destruction in Chautauqua County, Western New York, and New York State. Arkwright residents are being sickened. Arkwright residents, entire families, are being driven from their homes.